Yeah, so we're getting more barrels from OPEC Plus at the same time as Trump wanting to remove barrels from Russia via sanctions. So net, what does that mean for prices?
Well, so very near term, I think there is a risk of a pop in Brent prices toward the $80 barrel, if not above. We saw that, Mandy, when Joe Biden was leaving office. You may recall, just as he was leaving office in January, he suddenly tightened sanctions on Russia, and Brent popped to $85 a barrel. And of course, after the February 2020 invasion, crude went to $120 a barrel when they thought we would sanction Russian oil supply. So the market doesn't believe it right now. There was a little fright there a few days ago. But I think Trump is serious. You just showed, Martin just mentioned, if you are on Stephen Miller's naughty list, you're in trouble. And, you know, the Indians must be having some confusion because Joe Biden went to India after the invasion of Russia and begged them to take Russian oil. They had hardly imported any Russian oil. And they begged India, please take the oil so that crude prices will remain low, and they did. Now we're flipping around and saying, what are you doing taking all this Russian oil? But the point is, Trump is serious. President Trump is serious. He's frustrated with Putin. He's going to, I think, threaten these heavy secondary sanctions on India. And India is going to have a tough choice to make. But it's hard to see them continuing to import that 1.5 million barrels a day of Russian crude if Donald Trump decides to really put the whole relationship on the line over it.
Okay. Bob, if we could zero in on what's going on with India right now, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they've had and probably had that aha moment several days ago already. It's like, why are our tariffs still at 25%? Right? We're supposed to be an ally and a friend, or at least leaning towards that camp. It's got to do with, I mean, would you be surprised if India starts to get it and go, okay, I see what you're trying to do. You don't like us buying Russian crude. You want us buying, for all intents and purposes, energy from the U.S., let's say LNG. And if we were to do that, and if the order and the duration were long enough and also big enough, that 25% number might come down. I mean, is that something you're expecting?
Well, no, I think in this case, promising to buy more LNG, that worked for the Europeans. You know, that works for our Asian allies, Japan, South Korea. I think with India, it's not going to work. It's very specific. President Trump wants India to import less than 1.5 million barrels a day of Russian oil, if not get off to it altogether. So go back to where India was before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Import more oil from the U.S., more from the Emirates, from Iraq, from Kuwait, from other countries, Angola. Replace those barrels. That's the specific request. And I think the 25% tariff is just the amuse-bouche. That's just where we begin. There's this other yet-to-be-defined penalty that President Trump has threatened after October 8th if there's no ceasefire on India. So we have to wait to see what that additional penalty beyond the 25% tariffs will be if India refuses to reduce its imports of Russian crude oil. I think that is the specific ask, and LNG won't cut it.
Bob, what's your educated guess on what that unspecified penalty might be?
I think they'll do something like the secondary tariff. The president seems to be very fond of this. So 25, 50, 75, 100%, something that almost comes to a trade embargo. He will threaten that if India doesn't agree to stop importing Russian oil. Then the question becomes, can they agree on a phase out or a time frame for that to happen? But my bet would be secondary tariffs, potentially coupled with, you know, secondary sanctions, and go to Reliance and say, if we see you touch a barrel of Russian oil, your company and anyone who ever works for it will never set foot in the United States again, kind of thing. Real heavy-handed threats on the companies, but a secondary tariff against the entire nation of India if they don't comply.